We have a few guests joining us today to talk about social listening. First is Asher, Director of New Business at ICUC. He's going to walk us through the ways that social listening can help brands across the buyer's journey. Thanks for joining us, Asher.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Awesome. We'll also hear from Lance from REI. He's a Senior Social Media Program Manager at REI, where he was a key contributor to the social media strategy and execution of Opt Outside, winner of the 2016 Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity Grand Prize. He's going to tell us how REI works with ICUC and how social listening helps him get results. Their insights should absolutely spark some ideas about the returns social listening can bring to you. And thanks for joining us, Lance.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we get started and dive right in with tremendous learning from Asher and Lance, I'm going to give you an overview as to why companies do social listening. So social listening can help your brands in 5 ways. First, you can better understand audiences. You can explore audience segments, find new audience interests, and identify opportunities with data. The keyword here is, of course, data. Second, you can track buyer intents. You can understand when, where, and how consumers are talking about you, your product, or your category, and track changes over time. Third, you can test campaign impact. You can see what social content is working and which interest segments your campaigns resonate with most. Fourth, you can analyze product launch response. You can determine what motivates consumers to buy and find ideas for how you can be more impactful in the future. And fifth, you can benchmark against competitors, look at sentiments, determine share of voice, compare audience segments, and more. But if you think that social media is only about conversations, then consider this number. 66% of users say that social media is the place they go to truly learn about new products and services. This means that your audience has already opted in to hear your message. But as you know, getting followers doesn't always lead to a spike in revenue. So the big question here is, how do you turn followers into customers? And we do that by following your customers and your clients on the social buyer's journey. Now, the social buyer's journey is the pathway that everyone takes to make a purchase, regardless of the industry you're in. This is how brands work to get their prospects to purchase their products and services. The first stage of this buyer's or customer journey is awareness. And this is where we deliver customer insights and social strategy to help your business get discovered. The second stage is consideration. This is where social listening really plays a role, and we also have content engine solutions to help you stand out. The third stage is purchase. This is where we power social commerce and review management to help you convert sales. And finally, after the purchase, there is the customer experience sharing. We supply community management and social customer care to help you grow influence. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Asher to discuss how social listening truly increases awareness. Asher, over to you.
Thanks, Nicole. So let's explore how to raise awareness. Social listening helps you to know who your audience is and what they are interested in. So for example, Maven, a ride-sharing app created by General Motors, they were looking for a way to connect with millennials meaningfully, given the industry insight that millennials are trending away from car ownership and therefore represent a big opportunity for Maven. But producing compelling and authentic campaigns for this millennial audience can be a challenge. Social listening helped Maven to uncover key personality and interest categories like food, restaurants, nightlife, fashion, and music. ICUC built robust keyword searches around those conversations and tracked how they nuanced over key launch markets in the US. Then we helped Maven to tweak their creative and media planning accordingly. We found a similar insight with Chevrolet. Social listening revealed that electric car-related conversations drove lots of positive mentions, especially within Chevrolet's tech-savvy audience. Chevrolet now has a topic they know appeals to this audience that is also relevant and true to their brand narrative. They can craft content around this topic, for example, a content series about the work Chevrolet are doing around promoting sustainability. Social listening opens up lots of new avenues for relevant content. We know that people use social media for research when they're in the consideration phase. Social listening tells us what in-market consumers need to know before buying, what questions they are asking, and how they make their purchase decisions. President's Choice, for example, a Canadian supermarket chain, wanted to understand the mindset of their customers around key summer tentpole events. This audience is valuable because they're buying for groups and because there is an urgency to make a purchase before these events. ICUC built queries around food use cases, topics like summer barbecue, dinner on the patio, family picnic, and road trip. Social listening lets us dial up activation for consumers in the consideration phase. Geographics and demographics, when combined with the conversations your customers are having in shopping mode, help to paint a more complete picture of the consumer mindset. The key insight here for President's Choice was not a matter of what, but a matter of when. Social listening let President's Choice pinpoint the day of the week and even the time of the day that their customers were likely to post queries. Consumers planning a barbecue on Saturday are likely to start planning that barbecue on a Wednesday. This allows President's Choice to target more precisely and see a greater return on their ad spend. When customers are in the purchase phase, that means they're close to making a decision. Things can still go wrong and there may still be unforeseen barriers to making a purchase. Social listening can be used to understand those barriers and to inform content and point of sale strategies accordingly. Consider a big box retail brand. One of their customers walks into one of their Midwest locations ready to buy a lawnmower. They've done their research, they know the model number they want, how much it costs, and they even confirmed that a local store has it in stock. And even though a sale seems imminent, there is a lot that can still derail the sale. The product at the store is listed as a different price than it is online, or the quantity on hand is inaccurate, or maybe there's a confusing store layout and the customer can't find what they want to buy. In-store issues are inevitable, but they can be hard to discover. Most customers won't fill out a comments card anymore, but they will express themselves on social media. Social listening provides a scalable way to identifying location-specific issues in real time, so your brand can resolve all potential barriers to purchase. Finally, there is the experience and sharing phase. Even though the consumer has already made a purchase, that doesn't mean your engagement with them is over. Through social listening, brands can leverage a customer experience to create awareness for new prospects. During a devastating fire in Fort McMurray, Canada, a young bride-to-be had to evacuate the city. She lost her wedding dress a few weeks before the wedding, and she told her story on Facebook, and soon enough, people all over the country rallied to help. One Good Samaritan even donated a wedding dress, but the dress was all the way across the country. Thanks to social listening, ICUC learned about this developing story and brought it to Air Canada. Air Canada had the dress flown across the country and personally delivered by the crew. The result was incredible goodwill for Air Canada at a time when airline brands struggled to get positive coverage in the press. The bride actually said, "When we heard Air Canada cargo agents were personally flying up my new dress, we knew it was in good hands." Social listening helped to create and shape a positive experience for someone who wasn't even a customer, driving future engagement and awareness. Now, let's take a moment to talk to Lance Trube from REI. As the Senior Social Media Program Manager at REI, he has insights into defining social strategy for this beloved brand and executing marketing campaigns. He's going to tell us about the working relationship between ICUC and REI and how social listening has helped him to achieve results, from keeping customers happy to managing huge campaigns like Opt Outside.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to spend this time in conversation with everyone. I think we have been in relationship with ICUC for the past 5 years, and today I'm going to talk about some of the ways that we apply social listening in partnership with ICUC. And I think first it's important to frame this conversation that REI, many of the attendees today may know, is a retailer, but we are also unique in our identity as a co-op. And so this differentiator is one that we believe matters today more than ever, and it will certainly shape the conversation, the examples, and how we talk about social today. The first kind of area I want to talk about is how social listening has helped us understand the way our customers think. And I would include in that our future customers, understanding how potential customers think. And today we're going to talk about the activity of climb. So for REI, obviously we're a retailer and we can't focus on every single activity outdoors. So we have a few core activities. One of them is climb. And so we applied social listening to help us understand how our customers currently and how our future customers think about the activity of climb. So we zoomed in on the idea of location. Where do these customers climb? Where do they tell us they like to climb? Is it in the gym? Is it outside? Is it on specific trails? Is there something geographically we can learn? And so this really does inform a strategy for us around geography. When we think about when are they climbing, inside of a boulder gym, for example, or a bouldering gym, you can climb all your when our customers looked at climbing really did help inform our strategies throughout the year. And then the other key portion here for us is the what. What products do these climbers use? What do they love? What is their expertise level? Do they talk about how they enjoy certain areas or certain weather because of how it helps them with their novice level, intermediate level, expert level climbing? And then what new products do they crave? Oftentimes we see on social that our customers are complaining about something that doesn't even exist yet, and they love a product to exist. And so we can pick up on these conversations when we're listening along the lines of activities such as climb. Another way that we apply social listening is with our campaigns. And so today we're going to look at Opt Outside as an example, but we're always using social listening in each of our campaigns. And really that begins with this idea of a target audience. We're interested in understanding what the conversations are on social, but specifically within our target audience. And one of the things that was unique about Opt Outside is that when we launched this effort, we really thought we were talking to our core customers, talking to the REI members. And very quickly we realized we were tapping into a much broader cultural moment around Black Friday. And so just to ground this conversation, if you weren't familiar, 2 years ago, REI decided that on Black Friday, the biggest shopping day of the year, instead of following the pattern of other retailers, we were, for the first time ever, going to close all of our retail stores and pay all of our employees, both at headquarters and retail stores, to take the day off and spend it outside. And so we invited the world to join us and do that, and the reception was incredible. We don't have enough time to go into all that took place during that moment for our brand, but it really did put the spotlight on how REI is a different kind of business. And what I want to talk about today is that we saw something happening on social that really fueled our understanding of how this effort was landing. So for example, all of a sudden we had brands, nonprofits, state governments tweeting at us, wanting to talk about how they could take part in Opt Outside. So this idea of learning about partnerships through social was only capable through social listening. We also saw cross-industry support. So within our own industry, we saw brands that we carry and brands that we don't carry that we're excited to see this effort, to get on board, and to support. And so social listening really did help us understand how to interpret the results of this campaign and let us know what was resonating. And so, for example, when we saw that partners were joining us, that states were willing to waive the state park fee on this Black Friday day, it gave us an opportunity to tell more partnership stories. One of my favorites was that we learned that the idea of telling employee stories was really resonating. And so one of our most popular blog stories during that time was a store employee who had worked in retail for 27 years and never had Black Friday off during that time. And so this uniquely unlocked time for him and his family to be outside and do some of their favorite activities. And our community loved that story. So we decided to pivot and tell even more employee stories than we planned. This next section, we're going to spend a little time talking about understanding customer sentiment. And if you've done social listening or even casually looked, it can be hard to understand and measure sentiment accurately. For REI, we've chosen that sentiment can be a really important indicator of how our message is being received. And so we are listening to conversation on the highest level. And what I mean by that is just looking at things like volume, looking at topics that surface. That's an element of social listening that really helps us understand at a high altitude, how are things performing. But we do have interest in drilling down and really understanding at the topic level, what about this message is resonating or not resonating. And so, for example, because we're a co-op, because we can talk about more than just product, we will speak up as a brand on issues that matter to us and to our members. And one of those was public lands. And so in the United States, there's conversation happening about the public lands that we currently have or that we could have in the future. And REI wanted to be a vocal supporter of this conversation. And we quickly learned that within our membership, across social, within our own community, the opinions were really varied. And it was important for us to use social listening to help shape the understanding that we have of our current members, of potential future members and customers around these important topics such as public lands or climate. And we could understand that it's not that customers don't just agree or disagree, but there are specific ways in which they agree or disagree, and that helps shape our future messages. The other point here is that listening does enable us to understand also categories of sentiment. So we don't just see things as positive or negative, but we do start to look at the idea of neutral. And there's a lot of participation that we see across social that can look like it's high volume, but when you dig deeper, you understand that it's actually more of a neutral position. And so I would say that the ways that customer sentiment has come to life for us are around helping us understand diverse perspectives from our members and customers, helping us internally tell a story about how our messages are being received. So executive leaders, people across the enterprise, they want to know how are these messages resonating, and we can use sentiment and social listening to help share that. And then lastly, just making sure sentiment is a part of our mix for measurement, but it isn't primary. And at this point, I'd like to hand the presentation back over to Nicole.
Thanks, Lance, and thank you, Asher. That was very insightful. A recap of what we have learned already, and then we're just going to go into a little bit of Q&A. So we've seen how social listening helps drive awareness by uncovering rich insights into who an audience is. You can use these insights to create relevant and compelling content for your target. We also saw how social listening nudges shoppers in consideration by providing the right message at the right time to the right audience. These consumers often have questions at the point of sale, and by social listening, you can address them very easily. Social listening can also drive ROI for brands. It really helps drive the purchase by removing barriers to purchase and revealing ones that you perhaps didn't even know about. The result here is an optimized buyer's journey that removes friction from the sales process. And finally, you can use social listening to shape your customer experience. Your biggest asset in social media are your fans, and by leveraging their positive experiences, you can turn customers into brand advocates. Time for a little Q&A. So we've had a few questions that have come through for Lance and for Asher. So we have about 5 minutes here. And of course, if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them using the GoToWebinar panel. The first question that we have for Lance is, how were you able to measure the success of the Opt Outside campaign?
Great question. So thanks for that, that question around success measurement. For us, we looked at a couple things. The message was about awareness, and we wanted the world to understand why we're a different kind of business. And so one of the key indicators on social for us was something like hashtag adoption. So we measured across channel what was the volume of this conversation around hashtag Opt Outside, and it was massive. So I won't go into detail, but hashtag adoption was important. We also had a microsite where people could raise their hand and say, I'm going to join Opt Outside on this day. They could submit a photo and put an overlay on top of their photo that said, I'm going to Opt Outside with REI. And so we measured all of those photos. We measured traffic to that site. But those were some of the key indicators of success for us and how the world was choosing to participate with Opt Outside.
Perfect. Thank you, Lance. Great answer. Asher, I'm going to direct this next one to you. And the question is, you gave some excellent retail examples, which I agree. The question is, does social listening also apply to any other industries outside of retail?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So I think we can really apply social listening to really any vertical to better understand and connect with consumers throughout the consumer journey. So to give a couple of examples, you could use social listening to better understand audience passions and interest areas for FMCG or QSR brands. You could use social listening to engage and inform consumers for airline brands when they're in the consideration phase, to uncover barriers to purchase at point of sale for a telcos. Really, if people are talking about you online, then you should be listening regardless of the vertical that you're in.
Perfect. And one more question that we have time for, and of course, if you do have any other questions that we have yet to answer, we will follow up with you one-on-one. Asher, I'm going to direct this one to you as well. And the question is there one area of the social customer journey that is the most important? And this is what we reviewed in the beginning of this webinar. The question, it's a twofold question, is there one area of the social customer journey that we should start with?
No, I don't think there is. I think, and again, it's a great question. I think ideally your social listening solution should monitor every single consumer interaction with your brand at every stage of the customer journey. But the crucial thing is to make sure that you have the right work streams, the right accountability, and the right escalation process in place, so that on the brand side, on our client side, the right people are receiving the right data, the right insights, and the right user-generated content. So it's not enough to simply set up a social listening monitor to bring in conversations about your QSR brand, for example. You need to make sure that you're routing insights about content performance to the marketing team, possible breaking stories to the PR team, insights about restaurant performance to brand team and local franchise managers, and so on. So no, there isn't one area of the customer journey that we should start with. It's important to have a handle on how consumers are experiencing your brand throughout the whole journey, but crucially, you need to have clear escalations, work streams, and accountability in place to make sure that data and insights are being actioned effectively. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does for me. Thank you, Asher, and thank you, Lance, for responding to those questions. So we are going to close off this webinar today. I want to thank everybody for joining us today and asking such insightful questions. Of course, we're going to be sharing a recording of this webinar along with information on how you can grab a snapshot of current conversations through social listening, and offer for a complimentary consultation and an ebook on the social customer journey. Thank you to Asher and Lance once again for your time today, and we hope to see everybody at our next webinar.